Can you imagine walking through life wearing one of those suits of armor they used to wear in medieval times? And imagine how awkward and cumbersome and perhaps even painful that might be. Well, many of us are walking around with suits of armor built into our physiology. That's what I'm talking about today. This is Wellness by Design. I'm your host, Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer. And I'm talking today about defense physiology and how we build up armor and defenses right into our biology. And we may have done this even when we were little, and we've been carrying them around for years and years. So I'm talking about this today. We're going to dive into this a little bit deeper. And also, I'm going to give you a little exercise to help you begin to release some. Okay. All right. Let's dive in. I'll see you inside. Okay, we're talking about defense physiology today on Wellness by Design. And this is a topic, if you've been to one of my master classes or you've heard me teach before, you may have heard me talk about defense physiology. And what is it exactly I mean by defense physiology? Well, when we have a fear response, our body naturally has a physical reaction to that. So it will shift from the parasympathetic state to the sympathetic state, which is our defense state, which we move into when we are frightened of something, right? It was kind of built into our biology to protect us way back when, when we were being chased by animals, or we really had to physically defend ourselves. So we have this built-in system that gets us ready for defense. Okay, what does that look like? Well, if we've got to run, or it's going to be tightening up muscles and sending blood away out to those muscles to get us to run away in case we have to flee. Or if we've got to fight, right, it's going to be tensing us up, getting ready to fight. And we could just be holding that and storing these fears that we had even way back when. They get held and stuck in our physical tissues, and you may not even know it. You may not even know that you've got this tightness. And what happens over time is, well, if it's tight, it's not getting the blood sent to it in the way that it needs to, right, over a longer term. And then, of course, there's other things that are going on in our body too. If we're in defense mode, where our body's not going to be prioritizing the immune system, because that's a long-term thing. It's not going to be prioritizing digestion, because that doesn't really matter if we're like in fear for our life, right? And also our, that whole musculoskeletal system is just going to be stuck in that fight or flight mode. So we can be unknowingly carrying this around. And of course, it's all connected, right? Remember that game when we were little, like this bone is connected to that bone, and everything is connected. There was a song actually about that. And so everything is connected. So we may have tightened up in one area, and then, it might be down in our hips, for example, that we tightened up some muscles, the psoas muscle, or somewhere like deep inside. But that tightness down there may be causing a tightness up in the neck or in the jaw. And then that might eventually lead to like some shoulder pain. I mean, it's all connected. So these tightness is armor, right? I call it defense physiology because we're trying to defend ourselves at the time, but our brain doesn't get the message that it can let go of that, especially if it was something very emotionally triggered. And so that could be something that really, we may not even remember it as a little child, that it was something that was very fearful for us at the time. And so we hung on to it. The brain doesn't get the message that the coast is clear now. And so that tightness remains. So when it could even then show up as later on contributing to illness, right? So just as an example, if we've got all this tightness and rigidity, and we're not digesting food very well, well, then that can lead to, a leaky gut, for example, which then can trigger the immune system, which then can turn on an autoimmune response. So there's lots of ways it can have a downstream effect in our physical body, but it starts with this defense physiology. And so we want to get the message to the body through the brain, through the nervous system, through our energetic system, that it's okay to release. The coast is clear now. So we want to let go of those fears. And a lot of times people think, I need to understand it, I need to figure out why I have these fears and think their way through it. But that doesn't always work, because our conscious mind, it's just a very small part of all of what's going on processing within the body. So if our conscious mind can only process small amounts of information, our subconscious mind, it's processing all the time. It's a processing machine. And so just thinking about things is not necessarily going to get the message to the subconscious mind. So we kind of, I believe there are some tools that we can use to use consciously. And I've talked about some of those before, things like affirmations, where we can consciously try to send a message to the subconscious mind through our conscious mind through repetition. And that is certainly one way. But there are other ways too. And that I find what's really helpful is getting in the body. We're so used to being thinking all the time and trying to process everything as a thinker. And I get it, because my background as an engineer, that's what I did, right? Is think. And I thought, when rheumatoid arthritis still first came into my life, I thought, I figure this out. That was my thinking. I have to figure it out. So I was totally in my head trying to figure it out. And it did help me, though those tools are good. It did help me so far, but it didn't help me all the way. So the all the way part was actually beginning to release what was stored in my body for a long time. And I was so disconnected from my body, I didn't even know that I had tightness there. But I know it's there. And I still have layers and layers that I need to work on, because our tissues go deep, 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 right? So there can be lots of layers to work through. I still find, for example, one area that I held on a lot of tightness was in my solar plexus. And I still find, like, even now, as I'm talking, I tend to tighten up that area. And maybe that goes way back to, who knows, something where I felt like when I'm talking to people, it doesn't feel safe. Now I'm trying to tell myself a different story. And I'm trying to get outside of me as well and know, okay, I'm saying this because I want to help other people. It's not just about me. I can relax. It's okay. The people that want and need to hear this will hear this. So I'm still talking my way through that, but I also use the tools to help. Okay. So I want to give you some of those tools. So let me just see. I want the points I wanted to make. I did want to talk about the hidden cost of this. So the hidden cost of not dealing with these long-term defense physiology that we have is it can lead to chronic conditions. And we know this. We know the connection between, for example, childhood traumas, and disease later in life. I mean, it's just so clear. There's no question of it anymore. We know that it's connected. So the long term of not dealing with this is long-term health, physical health impacts. And maybe you are at a place where you already got to that point where it's like, okay, enough's enough. I know I have to deal with this. Or maybe you're not quite there yet. Maybe you don't have a chronic condition, but like, oh, something just isn't right. Or I don't like this feeling that I have of unease. And that's how you may sense it. You may just sense it as I never feel at ease, or very seldom feel at ease. Or I always notice when I'm talking to people, I feel unease. Or maybe, in your social situations, you feel unease. So you'll notice that there's a little sense of unease. And that's that feeling of I'm not safe, right? I'm not safe. So we can, of course, remind ourselves and use that logical thinking to say, I am safe. Right in this moment, I am safe. I have a roof over my head. I'm comfortable in my chair. There's the furnace. I'm just hearing my furnace cut in now. There's heat. I'm comfortable. I'm safe here right now. And so we can talk to ourselves that way, right? But we can also tune in to our body and notice where we may be feeling a bit of tension or pain and go inside there. So that's what I want to talk about. So we want to really deal with this so it doesn't keep getting worse. The longer we put off dealing with this, the generally the worse the symptoms will be, because our body will just keep talking to us, right? With this defense physiology, it'll keep talking, it'll be holding on there, and then it will show up, right? The issues are in the tissues, and we have to heal them. We have to feel them to heal them. So yeah, you may be feeling this. So I want to talk about this, how we can release these defenses. So we can, as I said, use some logic, and that's okay. We can, use affirmations, keep reminding our brain, because our brain and nervous system, right? The brain, the subconscious mind, it learns through repetition. And so we can use affirmations for that. And I know if you've been with me for a while, you probably have some of my affirmations, or you can make up your own. I am safe in this moment. I am healthy and strong. And if you don't feel healthy and strong, you can say something like, I am taking action to be healthy and strong. So make an I am statement. So those can work. But what we're talking about today is really, and what the tool I want to give you is going inside. How do we go inside? So right now, I'd like for you to notice where a place where you are maybe holding on to tension. So you may feel it as just tightness or tension, or just an area you can't relax, or you may feel it as pain, or you may you may have a feeling, an emotion, and notice somewhere in your body where you feel like a tightness or a heaviness or a constriction. Okay, so these are the heaviness, the tightness, the constriction, the pain. All of these are examples of that defense physiology where we get rigid, right? We get rigid. And when we have rigidity, it's not how we're meant to be as human beings. And on a physiological level, but also sometimes I like to come back to the energetic level as well and think of ourselves as a energetic being. So if we're an energetic being, where energy should be flowing freely and easily, if we have rigidity and tightness, then it makes blockages so the energy can't flow. And place that we see this a lot is in the fascia. So the fascia it's like a saran wrap that coats all of our organs, all of our muscles, all throughout of our body. And what they think now is that the fascia is a communication device within the body. And so it's like signals can go through so quickly. Now, how do you know your fascia is tight? Well, if you've tried to touch your toes and you can't because you notice you're tight, that's an example, right? Your fascia is tight. Maybe you notice, like, if you've gone to any kind of stretching, yoga or some other classes, and you've got, tightness in your hamstrings, or tightness in your neck, or tightness in your back, that's a sign that your fascia is tight. So we want that to be nice and loose. So we're going to begin by noticing where you notice it the most. Where do you notice the most that you've got rigidity, where you're showing and feeling that defense physiology? And pain is a very downstream example of defense physiology. So it starts kind of like maybe it's just a little area of tightness, but over time that can result in pain. So whatever it is for you, I just would like for you to pick one spot now. Okay. So let's do this exercise together. And if you're driving, then you might, or walking or something, maybe you want to wait till you're back where you can kind of sit down and close your eyes for a little bit, sit or lie down. So come back to this then. But if you can sit or lie down right now, then I invite you to do that. So just get comfortable wherever you are. And you can just, as I said, lie down or sit down. Let your hands rest comfortably in your lap or at your sides, palms up or palms down, whichever is most comfortable for you. And then you can close your eyes. You can just have a downward cast as well, but it's easier. It'll be easier for you to do this exercise, I think, if your eyes are closed, because I'm going to be using a little bit of imagination here, okay? So close your eyes and just begin to notice your breath. I just let out a little sigh there. Maybe you want to do the same thing. So just notice your breath. Notice the inhales and notice the exhales. Maybe you're noticing as you notice your breathing that you slow down a little bit. That usually happens. And then I'd like for you to go to that spot in your body, that area where you noticed some tightness or tenseness or pain. So when I say go to that area, I mean we don't want to think about the area, but we want to really try to move as if we are imagining ourselves moving through the inside of your body so that you are going to that area. You're in that area. You're right in that area. And imagine now in that area that this is a little dot. Place yourself, your consciousness, as a little dot in this area. And just notice what you're noticing there. Just be present there in this little dot in this area. If you want to imagine that the dot has a color, you can do that. And you don't need to do anything else except be there. Just be there in this spot. And we're breathing, but you're in this area, noticing that you are there, 100% present. Just keep your attention focused there. Notice any sensations you feel there. Notice if you feel like you need to move in that area a little bit. Maybe you've concentrated in one spot and maybe you need to move to another little spot close by. Just be present there. And let it soften. You're present in this spot and you're letting it soften. Letting it get softer. Maybe you can feel it releasing. Just let it get soft. And think in little increments. Can you let it get just 1 or 2% softer? And softer. And now bring our consciousness back up into the head again. And once you're there and you feel complete, you can slowly and gently open your eyes again. And now notice that spot from this conscious area. See if you can go back now with your eyes open. Go back to that spot again. With eyes open this time, but you're present there. And you can instruct it again, soften. Just soften a little bit. And do you notice there's a bit more softness there now? You probably do. I'd love to know in the comments. Let me know if you could soften a little bit in this exercise. And what other sensations did you notice? You may notice that you get warm, and that's because we're getting blood flowing, right? And so that's going to generate heat. You may have noticed yourself yawning, which is totally fine because that's a sign that your nervous system is relaxing. So, what else? You may have noticed that the area is literally softer now. Maybe there's a little less tenseness there. Maybe the pain has gone down a little bit. What have you noticed? Let me know what you noticed. I'd love to hear. And this is an exercise that you can come back to over and over again and teach yourself how to do it with your eyes open as well. So kind of like you have one eye on the inside, one eye present in that spot, your awareness present in that area. And in that way, you're really tuning into your body and giving it the message that it can release this defense physiology. Does not need to defend so hard. It can let go, soften, it can expand and lighten, right? So in that way, incrementally, we can let go of that defense physiology so that the body can just be its normal self again without all that defending. All right, so I'd love to know how this went for you. But I'd also like to share with you, the one thing you can do today, because that's what I like to do in this podcast. So, what's the one thing you can do today that's going to begin to initiate healing, help your body do its healing work naturally? And I think this is a great tool to practice. Why not practice it? Practice it, I would love to say 3 times a day, but even if you did it once a day, pick a time of day where you're going to do it. Mornings are great because when you do it in the morning, then it's done and you're often like not so busy in the morning. So maybe you do this in the morning. Maybe you need to put a post-it note or something to remind you to do it. And it's always helpful if you're doing any new habit to do it after something that you're already doing anyway. So maybe like after I get dressed or after I get out of bed or after I go to the bathroom in the morning. So something that you're doing already, tie it to that. Tie it to that. And then just give this a try. Imagine if we can go in there every day and soften and soften and soften a little bit more. Then our mind, that subconscious mind, is really going to get the message. This is where we're going to soften, and this is where we can soften, and we are softening. Okay, my friends. So again, just take these little teeny weeny steps. baby steps are totally fine. I always say baby steps will take you anywhere as long as you keep taking them, these little baby steps, because that's how we make changes, right? We make changes with baby steps, not with giant leaps. So, thank you so much for joining me on Wellness by Design today. I've got some great guests coming up. I've got a guest coming up, Helen Armstrong, who's an intuitive healer, and she's going to be leading us through something which I think is going to be fabulous. I'm also really excited about um, talking to some other guests about, well, all kinds of great things. We're going to be talking about glutathione as well and how that can help you. So I love to mix in, the science and the spirituality to help you, because we are not just a physical being, right? There's more to us than just the physical, and it's all connected. We know that. So you need to use all the tools. And that's how you can get to the point where you can start living your life with freedom again. That's what I want for you. All right. If you've been listening or watching this podcast, I'd love to have you rate and review, subscribe. And if you've been listening, maybe you want to go to my YouTube channel to watch it, or if you've been watching it and you want to listen to this on, as you're on the go, then go to my podcast to check that out. And don't forget to share this with someone who really needs to hear it, because, we've all had trauma, whether it's big trauma or little trauma, and most of us didn't learn these tools to help us release. And we're not like the animals who can just shake it off. That's what animals do. No, we held on to it. And so now we're seeing the repercussions later in life. So, okay, I hope this has been really helpful for you, and I'll see you again in the next episode.